So in California, there was an agency that existed before actually the Department of Healthcare Services that had a different name. But when we started that program, the Department of Healthcare Services became the holder of the dollars, the conduit of the dollars, and the main administrative body that said, this is what our program is going to look like. And the way they disseminate what I just said, how it looks like, is through these things called all plan letters, APLs for short, which are basically these decrees that go into the system and say to a health insurance company or to say a county even, this is what Medi-Cal is going to be providing beneficiaries. And in doing so, they also become the regulatory agency that'll do the audits. So to your question, who oversees it? The Department of Healthcare Services has auditors. They come at the plans I was at, they came every single year. They would come sometimes even during COVID, they would be on site. Okay. And they would look at every little thing. We're talking about medical record review. We talk about the authorizations. They would look at claims, and they go into every little thing, and they choose typically an area they want to audit, either because they know it to be an area of particular risk, or maybe because they've heard some complaints. Maybe there's a budgetary aspect of it, and they're concerned that certain things might not be functioning the way they want to be. They want functioning from a budget perspective. They'll choose that portfolio of things, and then they'll go in and they'll audit health plans to those things.
I've heard that those audits are really very rigorous. I mean, California in general. I'm not trying to step on any toes. It's just what I've heard being on the opposite side of the country, that actually the regulatory space within California is really quite robust. And that they are very, and working with clients. I have clients in California, and from what I can see is that when you get audited in California, the Medicaid program, it's tough. I mean, it's tough anywhere. I've been through Medicaid audits and program reviews across states, but California seems particularly, I don't know how to describe it, only robust and thorough. I mean, I'm just wondering, in your experience, is that process particularly different from other states? Like, really, how tough is it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I'd be really curious. It's just because my experience is so California based. I'd actually be curious what it must be like to sit in audits in, say, New York or Texas, other states that I know have very rigorous programs. I will say this: it's a true statement. Department of Healthcare Services are very thorough. They're all very intentional. They want to work with health plans. It's interesting. One thing that I found from sitting in so many and doing so many audits, I'm typically the one I've led teams in health services. Health services is arguably the most audited part of the regulatory part of healthcare, just the healthcare part. And I've always sat over health services. So that's utilization management, care management, behavioral health, things like that. And to your point, the rigor that you're speaking to is that they're very detail oriented. I'll give you an example. We'll be at a table with DHCS, Department of Healthcare Services. This is the Medi-Cal agency. And we'll have a computer screen up, and they will literally say, okay, walk us through this denial. So in a way, they're not, yelling at us. They're not berating us. But what they're doing is they're saying, show me everything you just did on this denial.
Yeah.
Which is inherently a very intense situation, because you're like, okay, I better hope we wrote the note right. I hope that the letter went out perfectly. I hope that everything was effectuated in the system. So you're right. I think the part that's rigorous is that they're very meticulous. So that's the one thing. The other thing I'll say is, and this is a bit of an ancillary part of this, most health plans are also licensed. It's called a Knox-Keene license. They're also licensed to offer insurance products in the commercial market. And as I said before, there's a bifurcation in the state of California. The DMHC regulates the commercial piece, and DHCS regulates the Medi-Cal piece. Well, it just so happens that a lot of times they synchronize their audits to occur at the same time. And for instance, I know of a plan I worked at previously that's, I think, literally this week. You sit at a table And on one side, you'll have DMHC, literally, and the other side, you'll have DHCS. And they'll be auditing you at the same time.
And I haven't seen that. I do think that's different from what I've seen in other states.
Yeah.
Without any
What
doubt.
is the
That's
benefit?
absolutely-
Yeah.
What is
What's
the benefit of that?
Great question.
What is the benefit
So-
of that?
Yeah. So each of them needs to tick and tie their own set of boxes, right? Their own set of boxes. Now, the benefit to the state is that in one shot, they can get the commercial side taken care of for that plan and the Medi-Cal side taken care of that plan, kind of in one shot. And they can kind of piggyback on each other's questions, because there are certain things, whether you're in commercial or Medi-Cal, that are pretty universal and overlapping. Things like turnaround times, for instance. Things like access and availability, right? These are these kind of bread and butter regulatory things. And so it's kind of a bang for their buck. They can kind of, I noticed when I was in one of those where they were on two sides, they would be playing off each other. And they would say, oh yeah, tell us a little bit more about that transportation piece, or tell us a little bit more about that provider letter piece. What do you do to confirm that the provider letter was actually sent? What do you do when it doesn't go through? So they kind of are building off of each other.